Modern advertising and politics are hyper-customized, built to appeal directly to your most private insecurities and your unique sense of self. 100 years ago, this level of personalization was non-existent. People bought boots because their feet were cold, and flour because they were hungry. Purchases were driven by physical survival, just as votes were driven by shared class interests. In the 1920s, this rational world became a source of anxiety for the ruling elite. They feared industrial assembly lines were producing goods faster than people could consume them, while simultaneously worrying that the newly enfranchised masses would use their votes to dismantle the existing social order. To the wealthy elites of the era, a crowd like this was a dangerous entity. They viewed the democratic public as a volatile force, driven by unpredictable impulses that threatened to pull society into chaos. That fear found a scientific foundation in the work of Sigmund Freud. Freud suggested that human beings are governed by primitive, aggressive, and hidden desires buried deep within the unconscious mind. Edward Bernays, Freud's nephew, realized these hidden psychological forces could be used for corporate and political management. Bernays presented his uncle's theory as the mechanism for social stability. By stimulating the irrational desires of the masses, the elite could maintain order in a democracy without resorting to physical force. Bernays' breakthrough was proving that people would buy products they had no physical use for if those objects were linked to an unconscious emotion. He demonstrated this by tackling the 1920s taboo against women smoking in public, a social barrier that was costing tobacco companies half of their potential market. During a major New York parade, Bernays staged an event where a group of debutantes lit cigarettes in front of the press, branding them as torches of freedom. By branding cigarettes as torches of freedom, Bernays successfully turned a tobacco product into a symbol of independence. Women began purchasing cigarettes to satisfy an emotional craving for the power traditionally held by men. This campaign moved the entire American economy toward a culture of desire. Cars, clothes, and household goods were no longer sold as tools, but as psychological mirrors for how people wanted to be seen. Consumerism was engineered as a psychological palliative. By satisfying people's inner cravings, the system produced a population that was happy, distracted, and manageable. By the 1950s, corporations sought even deeper access to the unconscious mind, leading to the development of the focus group, a space where consumers free associated their feelings about products. When Betty Crocker struggled to sell an instant cake mix, focus groups revealed that housewives felt an unconscious guilt for using a product that made baking too easy. The solution was to require the consumer to add a fresh egg to the mix. This small act of participation relieved the underlying guilt and made the product's convenience psychologically acceptable. This engineered conformity faced a massive challenge in the 1960s. A new generation began to rebel, attempting to liberate their individual identities from corporate control. Capitalism absorbed this rebellion by learning how to mass-produce the very idea of individuality. Researchers developed VALS, the Values and Lifestyle System. It categorized rebellious archetypes into targetable demographics, turning personal values into data points for marketers. Corporations began offering specific goods that allowed people to express their unique sense of rebellion through their purchases. By turning products into tools for self-expression, the search for a liberated personal identity was successfully converted into a search for new things to buy. The psychological tools developed to sell products found their way into the heart of democratic politics. During the era of the New Deal, leaders like Franklin Roosevelt spoke to the public as a collective, rational body. Political support was built on shared civic duties and mutual social burdens. This model was abandoned in the 1980s as politicians began to treat voters like isolated consumers, driven by self-interest. Using focus group tactics, Ronald Reagan appealed directly to the individual's desire to be free from government burdens, catering to personal satisfaction over the collective good. In Britain, Margaret Thatcher pursued the same strategy, arguing that society as a collective entity did not exist. There were only individual people making individual choices. Eventually, even the political left adopted these techniques, using lifestyle marketing to target voters as customized segments rather than as a unified citizenry. Today, we use brands, lifestyles, and niche media to broadcast our unique inner selves, convinced that our ability to choose is a sign of our total liberation. This obsession with personal identity is the completion of the vision Edward Bernays proposed a century ago. We are a society of isolated individuals, too occupied with our own desires to challenge the relations of power. The citizen is gone. The consumer remains.